Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. Coming up this week, paid sick leave for all workers in New Jersey. It looks like it's going to happen. What will that mean for you? Also, if you text and drive, you're going to want to watch out during the month of April. The cops are paying close attention to the roads. And we are going to take you to one of the most popular record shops in the country, and it's right here in New Jersey. But first, we begin with one of the most outspoken voices in the legislature. Republican Senator Declan O'Scanlon talks about his opposition to the current governor. Congratulations, by the way. The last time you were here, you were assemblyman.
A lowly assemblyman. I've now ascended to the big house.
Big difference?
It's interesting, yeah. There's, the value of your vote is doubled because there's half of the people, but you have a bigger voice and you have some more power, technically speaking. So
as a Republican, you have power?
You make your power, right? You raise your voice to the level that you need to. You make the case, you do your homework. If you're prepared and you know your stuff, you make your own power. I mean, we've already prevented a significant bill that shall remain nameless for right now because the battle's still going on, but we've had some major impact on it. And it's a bill that our impact will save taxpayers dramatically from a bad bill.
Let's talk about some other bills that are currently being discussed that I'm sure you would like to have an impact on. First, let's start with the Senate President Steve Sweeney came out with some legislation or some idea for a legislation about increasing the business tax in the state by 3%. Last week, we talked to the head of the NJBIA, who said it's a horrible idea. We're already trying to keep businesses here, and this could push them out. How do you feel about the legislation?
If you look at objective assessments of business climates and business tax climates throughout the country, so business entities that have no real dog in the fight for one state or another, New Jersey already ranks 50 out of 50. So we don't have a positive business climate. And we are also the highest taxed people in the nation at this point, or top three, depending on how you're adding it up. Certainly leading with a tax increase, as both the governor and Senate President Sweeney are doing, is the worst message we could send to businesses and to the taxpayers of New Jersey. Even business tax, corporate taxes trickle down. There's no question. They're passed on to consumers. And it's a drag on our economy, and it drives businesses out or dissuades them from opening here in the first place. So it's a very bad thing to lead with. That having been said, we probably have a $5 billion, give or take $1 billion, structural budget deficit. With all the reforms that I'm advocating, and I'm advocating the most substantial, I think, of any legislator out there, health benefits reform, pension reforms that we probably have to look at as well, other cuts, school funding. If you do all of that, and I cut everything, I haven't figured out how to close the gap completely. So I want to be honest, over time, you may have to look people in the eye and say, look, we're either going to have to make some really draconian cuts, which we could talk about, or rely on some marginal tax. But before you do any of that, you need to make the cuts. You need to make the reforms. You need to get an investment of the people of New Jersey into a belief that you know what the hell you're doing and you're not just going to rely on taxes.
Let's talk about the cuts in a second, but let's stay with this proposal because on its face, it sounds like a good idea. On its face, there was a federal tax cut of 14%, and now you're saying, well, you have this extra money, the state needs it, and they want to give it to the schools. So all of it sounds positive.
Let's be clear. The intent of Republicans at the national level was to leave more money in people's pockets, to let them keep more of their own money. If the state of New Jersey is going to say, well, every time there's tax cuts somewhere else, we're going to sop that up in government here in New Jersey.
Well, they're not sopping it all up, to be fair. They're not sopping it all.
There's still a net benefit. But if we're going to see every tax cut or savings that people get somewhere else as an opportunity to increase New Jersey state government's appetite for people's money, it doesn't send a good message. And no tax, there should be no discussion whatsoever of any type of tax increase, certainly not now, but certainly not until you've committed to doing the reforms that we all know need to happen. The message that is being sent by the governor and the Senate President at this point, and Democrats in the legislature overall, is that we're not going to look at cuts at all. Well, then they have to look the people of New Jersey in the eye and say, not only, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the draconian tax increases you're going to face. And that's a scary prospect. If they wanted to have a legitimate, open discussion about all these reforms and how our budget looks, that would be responsible. I would participate in that discussion.
You've brought up the reforms several times, so let's talk about the reforms that you're looking at. Where specifically would you cut?
Look, interestingly, there's no this silver bullet that a lot of people like to imagine out there, just this pile of billions of dollars of waste in the state government. We've already picked that low-hanging fruit. We've already made cuts over the past 8 years with Governor Christie leading the way. Now you have to make major reforms. And there's only a few things you could do that will save you north of $1 billion. One of those is health benefits reform. We have platinum plus health benefits here. We are an outlier in how dramatically generous our health benefits are. You can reform those benefits and save more than $1 billion, probably closer to $2 billion if you do it right. And and that's not a direct transfer to public workers. Part of it is, which you can ameliorate with savings in other areas and efficiencies. You can make use of the exchanges that are possible now from the federal government. There's a lot of things you can do. And we have a bill that would do all that, would implement the Byrne-Healy Commission's recommendations on health benefits reform. You have to do it. If you don't do that, the next things, there's school funding reform you could do, but there's very little else other than pension reform that will save you billions of dollars.
You opened up a couple other issues real quick, so let me just take a side street fast, because the Jersey City teachers disagree with you. They think they're already paying too much into their health care and they're ready to strike.
Everybody thinks they're paying too much for health care. Maybe we are, and we should certainly go at cost. But look, I gotta say, the NJEA itself, as the union has refused to come to the table, like other unions in the state have, police, CWA, and made major reforms, which have held healthcare costs constant over the last few years for those union systems. The NJA wouldn't come to the table. Their members have suffered double-digit increases, so they got to look in the mirror before they complain about.
Let me stay with New Jersey teachers for a second, New Jersey City teachers for a second, because you said specifically, they're not in your district, but you said specifically you don't want the school board to give in to them.
The school boards across this state, if anybody hears anything I say, school board members across this state should not negotiate health benefits at all. We hit reset on health benefits through Chapter 78 reforms, and everybody's paying a reasonable amount. They're paying a percentage based on how much money they make. That's phased in over a few years. Does it hurt? Yeah, it should have happened 20 years ago, but it had to happen, and it's fair. And if they're going to negotiate health benefits, they are leaving their taxpayers open to outsized growth in their taxes going forward. They should negotiate salaries. It's clear, it's transparent. You give teachers today what you believe they should get, and I am not one of those people that believes teachers are overpaid. I think that they should get salary increases, but you need to do it, be honest with your taxpayers. Negotiating health benefits is kind of a backdoor way to say, hey, we're giving you a kicker that we hope the taxpayers don't notice. It's bad policy, and they set themselves up when those health benefits go up by more than inflation or by more than salary increases to an outsized kicker that will cost taxpayers dramatically down the road, and they'll start digging that hole that we helped fill in with Chapter 78 by hitting reset. They're giving away those gains. They shouldn't do it.
This is all complicated because you pointed to the federal marketplace for a moment ago when you were talking about all of this, and that may be going away without the federal mandate that they're trying to fill now in the state by coming up with their own mandate, penalties against. The way the marketplace works is young people have to buy insurance or it's not going to work. So they're going to penalize young people that don't get involved in New Jersey specifically. Good idea or bad idea?
It's an interesting idea that I'm actually considering. I don't have a knee-jerk, no, we shouldn't have any mandates question, because there are two mandates here. There's the mandate that we're discussing now that those people who can afford insurance and choose not to, young or not, what they're choosing to do is force those of us who are responsible to pay for them if they get sick, essentially paying for their insurance. That's not fair, because the other mandate that we're talking about is that we're going to treat everybody that walks through the door. So if you're not going to remove that mandate, I'm not advocating we do, we're a compassionate society, we're not going to let sick people die in the gutter. But there's two mandates here. And as long as you have the one mandate that we have decided to inflict on ourselves, that we're going to treat everybody that walks through the door who's sick, I'm not sure it's unfair to say, if you can afford to contribute to this system, you need to contribute.
I thought you were afraid. I read an article where you were afraid it would chase away millennials. Because you said it's not all young people. You're right, but it's majority. It's a 70-some%.
And I did say that was the one thing that news article. I said all this, by the way, too, at the committee hearing, but that was missed in the article. There is a concern. That's why I haven't yet committed to voting for this bill. I may very well do it. And I don't think I think the conservative position, the Republican position, should be that everybody has to contribute, and we shouldn't permit people to choose to force the rest of us to pay for their portion. The concern, one of the concerns, is that if you do, that it's already expensive to live here. We don't want to force millennials out of this state. Now, there's two sides to that coin, too.
They're already leaving.
There are plenty of them leaving. So by increasing their costs, are we pushing more out? However, there are plenty of millennials that want to buy insurance or that do buy insurance. Their costs go up because of these irresponsible folks who can afford it and choose not to buy insurance. That's not fair. So I may end up supporting this.
You're always fascinating. You get a lot of words into your time.
I
just try to hold on sometimes.
She needs to hear that.
When we come back, I want to talk about some of the politics that are going on in Trenton right now as we continue our conversation. Yeah, right. So with Senator Declan O'Scanlon. We'll be right back.